Bears injury report is out, and yet again, to start the week, a little bit concerning. We got to break that down. And also, I want to answer some of you guys' questions, or at least respond to some of you guys' answers to a question I put in the shorts. If you're not bought in on this team, why? We'll talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. You do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. Appreciate you guys as always for showing love in the way that you do. Let's jump into this right now. Injury report looking real ugly to start this week here off of practice. Roschon Johnson was a DNP, Cole Kmet DNP, DJ Moore DNP, Tyreek Stevenson DNP with that shoulder, DeAndre Swift DNP. Good to hear Grady Jarrett limited yet again. No setback there. Remember, he was limited by the end of last week there. Braxton Jones limited is an interesting one. Might hurt the offensive line depth a little bit there. Cairo Santos limited. Good to see him starting to get himself back in. Questions on that kicker conversation might be there. Nashawn Wright limited. That was good to hear after he was banged up at the end of that game. And Austin Booker, yet again, a full go. Would assume he gets activated by the end of this week. And Eamon Agban-Bamiga limited, or a full go as well. Starting it off here, listen, the injury report, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Your run game right now taking a hit. Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift on here. I know Roschon not really a big part of this run game right now, but still somebody who, along with, you got DeAndre Swift out, somebody who you would like to have a little bit of depth out there with, someone who can play the position and can be an aggressive runner. Would have liked to see him. You hope that he's able to get out there. And of course, for special teams purposes, DeAndre Swift, the big name there that you're really focusing in on with that groin injury. DNP, again, they're trying to be careful with this. Now, Swifty did have this groin injury last week. They slow played it. He was able to get out there for the game. He had yet again another big game. But I think when you start to look at some of the other names, Cole Kmet, DJ Moore, right? To me, that means your run game could be taking a hit because DJ Moore, while he was banged up the week before that with the undisclosed groin injury, now with the hip injury, right? There's some question marks on, the blocking that's going to be taking place here, along with the running of DeAndre Swift. Hopefully by the end of this week, you see those two get themselves healthy, because not only as far as a receiving core goes, but with Kmet and DJ Moore together, that's a big part of your run blocking game right there. When you talk about guys down the field making plays, or guys, Cole Kmet at times, right, coming in and we saw him last week, trying to cut Cam Jordan on a inside rush that ended up turning into an outside zone rush because of DeAndre Swift having to bounce it back outside and just going out there and making a play, right? Cole Kmet in there on that block. So there's going to be a lot of different usage here. You still got Durham Smythe. You still got Colston Loveland. So not really worried about the pass catching aspect of it. And Smythe may take over as the pass blocking aspect of it. But I think what Cole Kmet gives you out there is a little bit of, what's the right word? Not transparent. A little bit of confusion, if you will. I can't think of the perfect word for that, but a little bit of, I don't even know what the right word I'm trying to find here is. Anyway, it makes it so that the defense can't just identify, hey, this guy sucks and he's not out there to be a pass catcher, so he's clearly out there to block. That's the point I was trying to make there. With Colston Loveland, you get a little bit of that too. With Durham Smythe, I don't expect to see a ton of passing downs for Durham Smythe. So I would assume that if Cole Kmet is not able to go, you would use Colston Loveland in a lot of those roles, which takes him away as a receiver. And we haven't seen a ton of receiving from the tight end position. I thought this could be a big week for it, where the Bears would be able to take advantage of it. Hopefully that's something that does play out there. Keeping it moving along though, I think, as far as the run game goes, you've finally been able to establish something with Kyle Monungai. That's something that you can look at as a positive as well. And having Colston Loveland out there, having the Durham Smite and how the offensive line on the interior has played well together. I think those are things that you really still can hang your hat on and have an efficient run game to make this work. But this will definitely be a blow if these guys aren't able to go again. This is early on in the week. We know how the Wednesday practices have been throughout the season where, by Wednesday, we're sitting here, we're seeing DNP, 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 DNP. By Friday, we're seeing full goes for guys. You got to be able to go out there and make a play. You got to be able to go out there and fight through the pain. Sometimes nobody is healthy at this point in the year, and so no surprise there that we're seeing names on this list here. As far as the limited guys, though, I think Grady Jarrett, a great name to be adding back into this conversation, somebody that you could feel really confident in right now and say, hey, with where this defensive line is at, with you getting yourself back healthy, hopefully we're a full go by the end of this week, and you start to feel a lot better about this defensive line. A defensive line over the last couple of weeks that is really felt like they've started to find some of their footing. I would say more in the run game than the pass rush, but being able to stifle that run game is going to be incredibly important versus a Ravens team that we know if you give them the opportunity, they'll go in there and run the football right down your throats between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So, and it seems like, and we'll talk about this as well, Lamar Jackson practicing today per Adam Schefter. So something to keep an eye on there as well. But having Grady Jarrett back, I think that's going to be impactful for this defensive line, a defensive line that's starting to find its footing and is starting to figure some things out. And if you can force Lamar Jackson to kind of stay in that pocket, I think this is a week where you kind of go oppo, right? I would almost say you wanted Spencer Rattler to get up out of the pocket. I would say this is a week where you want Lamar Jackson to stay in that pocket. Not to say that he can't go out there and just sit back there and play quarterback, but I think more of the contain is what you're going to look for there, trying to keep him kind of locked down, pinned down on the inside, being able to wrap him up and get some tackles, because with Lamar, the fumble is always a chance that it can happen there. And you've been defensively doing a great job there. I think this is a week where if you can contain that, and you've got Grady Jarrett, you've got Javon Dexter, you've got Andrew Billings, who seems like he's really found his footing as well here. You could do a lot of good things defensively. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below about the run game and the defensive line there. Are those things that you are concerned about when you see this injury report? Or is it kind of just like, hey, listen, next man up, we got to go out there and make a play? Because there is that aspect of it as well. As far as the other names, I got a video already out on the channel about where I think Austin Booker is going to end up. I think, moving on from the practice squad, that's probably where we see him going. I get it. He may not clear waivers and stuff like that. I think here in Chicago, we think a lot higher than teams around the league do of some of the talent. And I just think that Dennis Allen isn't bought in on Austin Booker right now. And so if somebody does claim him, I don't think it would be the end of the world for Dennis Allen right now. As far as the kicker situation, Cairo Santos, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Cairo Santos getting himself healthy. And I'll tell you somebody who's not going to make it through the waivers. That is Jake Moody, if you put him back on the practice squad. And so my question to Breeze Nation is, has Jake Moody done enough where you're ready to move on from Cairo Santos? And the reason I ask this question is because for me, it is a no. And the reason it's a no for me is I haven't seen Jake Moody make a kick that Cairo can't make yet. I think that's the part. The kicks that we've talked about, the one kick that was blocked, it was blocked for the exact same reason that Cairo Santos' kick was blocked for. Has Jake Moody been great over the last couple of weeks? 100%. I think he secured himself a job in the NFL, and I think that's something, if you're Jake Moody, you can hang your hat on and feel really good about. But I can't sit here and tell you that Jake Moody has secured himself a position on this team when you haven't made any of the 50-plus yard kicks that we've talked about Cairo Santos missing. Now, when I had this debate on the post-game show with my co-host Jeff Meller, I think that there's a conversation to be had on the fact that you do know Jake Moody has a bigger leg. You do know that Jake Moody has the ability to hit the ball from further back and be able to make field goals. But the problem is when he was taking those shots, he wasn't efficient with them. His final season, and maybe some injury plays into that as well, but his final season there or his second and final season, I should say, in San Francisco, he was atrocious from kicks of 50 yards plus or more. I think he was 4 for 9 on the season, and I get it. Maybe it's an injury thing. Maybe you're able to come up. Maybe you're able to figure it out. Maybe you hold Cairo out for another week and say, get yourself 100% healthy because we kind of want to go with this guy. Remember, this is how Cairo got his job. Eddie Pinheiro got banged up. Cairo came in. Eddie Pinheiro got healthy. Cairo was the kicker still. It was like, well, we're just going to keep going with this guy that keeps making kicks. We don't care. So I'm not saying that it can't be a move. But to me, it would be tough to cut bait with Cairo especially knowing how kicking in Soldier Field can be, especially knowing how difficult that can be on a kicker. We saw Jake Moody do it in some tough conditions. He talked about how Cairo gave him some pointers on that. But at the end of the day, for me, like, you got to show me the things that Cairo Santos can't do that you can do for me to be all like, yo, I'm tired of Cairo that much. Let's just move on. Because the things that we're talking about that Cairo can't do, Jake Moody wasn't able to do the last time we saw him in action in those situations. So to me, I think that's a tough one to talk about moving on from Cairo. If Cairo's healthy, I would assume that Cairo stays here. That doesn't mean I never want to move on from Cairo. I think there's a million kickers that are coming out of college every year that you want to have your kicker competition. You have Cairo still here, and you bring all these kickers in, and you go, let's see who can kick it the furthest and the most accurate throughout camp. Like, I don't think you don't try to figure out the problem. I just don't think that this is the answer that you're going to end up going with in the long run. So let me know how you guys feel on that. Update on the opponent side here for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, per Adam Schefter, was practicing today. See if I can pull up that Ravens transcript here, because listen, that's going to be the conversation all week. And you heard how Ben Johnson was talking about it today. He said, we're going through this week as if Lamar Jackson is playing. Lamar Jackson's designation with that hamstring was limited today. Some of the other injuries there, Zay Flowers was a full go, so they should have their wide receiver back this week. Kyle Hamilton was limited. Marlon Humphrey was DNP. Patrick Richard was full go. Roquan Smith was a full go. Ronnie Stanley was a full go. And Devontae Walker was a full go. So talking about this game this morning, right, I was like, listen, how that defense is, you should still be able to go in there and make some plays and get the job done. Getting that captain back may change that a little bit. Now, Roquan can't cover everybody. And still, I still don't believe in some of the things that we've seen defensively from these guys. So I still do think that you can go out there and be able to make plays and win, especially if they're going to be without some of their best players up front still. But to me, like, this is one where that offense looks like it's starting to piece some things back together, and you could be the week where they get their mindset right. It's not going to be a cakewalk going up against Lamar Jackson, no matter the situation. Do I think it's a game that the Bears should still win? 110%. Do I think it's a defense that the Bears should still be able to take advantage of and beat? Yeah, based off of what we've seen from them. I don't think that just adding Roquan Smith's amazing, but I don't think that just adding Roquan Smith back in there is going to put these guys all the way back in a perfect scenario here to where they're going out there and they're dominating you. But, time will tell. I love how they're approaching this week. John Harbaugh has not really been a losing coach throughout his entire tenure there. He's only had 2 losing seasons. With Lamar getting healthy, or getting healthier, and the expectation, remember Dan Graziano said earlier that the expectation was that he would not play this week with him practicing. I would assume that means he's at least trying to work towards playing this week. If Lamar's out there, you got to prepare for everybody that's going to be out there, like Lamar is going to be out there. There is no better situation than, hey, Lamar's not out there. Everyone else is, we got Snoop Huntley, we got Cooper Rush. Like, we can deal with those problems if those problems arise. But hearing that Lamar Jackson is limited right now and it seems like it's trending towards playing, even though Dan Graziano said the expectation is that he would not play this week, and that still could be the case. I think that's something to keep a very, very big eye on as we head into this game, because Lamar Jackson by himself can flip a game on its heels. And the real question is, can your offense go out there and be able to make some of those same plays that we know Lamar Jackson can? Can Caleb Williams find his footing versus this team, versus this Ravens defense that has struggled week in and week out? We'll see how that continues and how that plays out. Let me know how you guys feel in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you guys as well. And I do want to talk to you guys about this. And I think, listen, this week could be a tough one now to have the conversation with some of the guys that we just talked about that were banged up. But I asked a question earlier on YouTube Shorts, and I wanted to bring that question here, because even with, right, let's say Lamar plays, they beat us, like even then, when you look at this Bears team, they're sitting right now at 4-2. I would say you've got 2 good wins on the season, like 2 wins where if you look at the Cowboys are trending towards being yet again a pretty good team. I get it. The defense is not there, but you stifled an offense that has gone out and has been pretty dominant throughout the entire season. They're 3-3 on the season. I would say that that's a win that you could look at and say, hey, good win, hang your hat on that because of how you beat the Cowboys. I think the Commanders is a good win no matter what. And I think you got 2 wins on the roster or on the docket where you look at the 15 I don't know where I was going 15 on it. You look at the game versus the the Vegas Raiders. And you look at the game versus the New Orleans Saints. Oh, that's where I was going. You were able to beat the Saints by double digits. It took you a game-winning block field goal, right, to beat the Vegas Raiders. But at the end of the day, for me, like, you've got a couple of good wins, and you've got a couple of wins that you had to win ugly. Why are we not bought in on this team? What is going on right now with Bears fans? And some of the responses I found fascinating. And I listen, I'm willing to have the debate with you. Devo2X said, I'm bought in. I just feel like when the defense is playing how it's playing, and how it is, the offense has to pick up some of the slack. Also curious to see how good the offense would move if we weren't getting such good field position off of turnovers. Here's the thing that I'll say to that. First off, everyone's getting good field position this year. It's why the yardage numbers are so down this season. And what I mean by that is with the new kickoff rules, you're starting at the 35 almost every time, 35 to 40, depends on the play. You're starting off with good field position. I understand that the offense has not been perfect, but I thought Yurko said something today on the Chicago Bears podcast that was absolutely perfect. Everybody's so concerned about the run and the pass being elite at the same time. And Yurko said, you guys are just getting greedy. And I agree with that in the sense of if the offense is working, everything doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're going down and scoring touchdowns. If the beef is that we're not putting enough touchdowns on the board, I understand that. But people look at some of the turnovers that we saw the other day, and they're like, oh, well, you only were able to kick field goals on all those. No, you were able to get touchdowns out of that. Do I want more touchdowns out of that? Of course I want more touchdowns out of that. But you were able to turn those into 6. It just wasn't Caleb Williams throwing the football for 6. It was DeAndre Swift turning around, getting the ball handed off to him, and him going in for 6. I think also when you look at that Commanders game, like there were multiple times where you went in for 6. One of them was called back. And I think that second half is looked at completely differently as far as the passing offense or the offense picking up the slack if we do have that touchdown on the docket. And so, like, I don't think that the last game that we saw from Caleb Williams is indicative of how we've seen him play the entire season. The drives in the fourth quarter of that game versus the Raiders put you in an opportunity to win, and the turnovers were off of that as well. I think that you could say the same thing about that drive at the end of the game versus the Commanders. Not only did he drive you down for a touchdown, and yeah, they were driving down on a defense that has played pretty well, but that defense came away with another touchdown and drove down the field and put you in a position to kick that field goal to put you up as well. Like, those are the moments where I look at the offense and I'm like, yo, well, if you got the fourth quarter offense clicking, if you're starting to fix some things, starting to figure some things out, and you're starting to see a comfort, I feel like we came out of those games comfortable with where the quarterback was. Not saying that we were happy with it, where we were dominating, but comfortable with where the quarterback was. Then we saw that last game, and so many people were like, oh, told you, he sucks. Like, I can't live in that world where every single week everything has to be perfect, because I don't think that's a realistic football world, even when you're the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. Maybe back in the day you can talk about that, but right now with the way the Chiefs are, every week everything isn't perfect. Butters MC Spread, that's pretty hilarious name. His comment I thought was interesting. He said, not finishing inside the end zone. Yeah, that's great. We're leading in takeaways, but I saw New Orleans game 4 possessions and with 6 points, 2 possessions, we had the ball in the red zone, and I believe on all 4 possessions we had good field position, and that was in the first quarter. So the way I see it, the game should have been 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. When we start capitalizing on turnovers to where those are turning into touchdowns, then we're ready for a Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, or Detroit Lions in the postseason. I read that. I get it. It's a lot of the same stuff we just talked about. Where do you think we're at in this whole process? Like, I think that's the other thing too. Do you think that we are going to be a 13-3 football team or 13-4? Do you think that we are trending towards, I get it, try to be the best, want to be up there with the gods and all that, but like, I don't think the buy-in on a team is when you become the Super Bowl caliber team. I think the buy-in on a team has to happen when you feel like the team is actually doing things the right way and is doing things to actually get you through the process of becoming one of those Super Bowl teams. And I feel like we can say that about the Chicago Bears a ton this season. With where we started off at 0-2, coming off of a loss where we gave up 52 points, to how this team responded, how they've put these 4 wins on display, and how they've been able to go out there and make play after play after play. I think there's some consistency that you're starting to see. It may be more on the defensive side than the offensive side, but we can't act like the offense hasn't existed here. There's an offense that has been able to go. We haven't scored defensive touchdowns. There's an offense that has put up 21 points at least in every single game this season. The only offense to do that this season. And I think that does deserve a little bit of credit as, hey, we're moving in the right direction. We need to clean some things up and get some things figured out. Lord Crimson, shout out to you, always in there with a comment. He said, I think it's likely the fact that some have had inaccurate expectations and have not come to terms with why their expectations were so inaccurate. Some people still think the problem was the QB even after that was changed and the same results occurred. Listen, the QB was part of the problem. The QB is still a part of the problem. It's a football team. The QB, it's okay to say that the QB is a part of the problem. Was a bigger part of the problem the offensive line? Was a bigger part of the problem the coaching staff? Yeah, I think the wins that you're seeing this season state that to you and scream that to you. But I don't think that you have to exclude the quarterback from the conversation. I just think it's very tough to say, I'm confident in Ben Johnson. I love what we've seen from Rome Odunze. I love the offensive line that we're starting to put together here. I think that this offense is moving in the right direction, and for some reason exclude the quarterback from it. Like, is your offense moving in the right direction or isn't it? Because it's either moving in the right direction with the quarterback that you have, or it's not moving in the right direction at all. Like, a bad game isn't indicative of where the quarterback is going. I also think, I do agree with the expectations part of it, not so much from a record standpoint, but I think we look at the ups and we look at the downs. And the downs, we go, oh my God, it's just like a roller coaster, right? On the downs, just screaming, ah! Like, that's what is supposed to happen in football. You have ups, you have downs. The goal is to have more ups than downs. But it doesn't mean that downs aren't going to happen. You don't think that the Bills are having downs right now? They've had 2 games in a row where they've gotten their butts kicked on primetime. The downs are there. We just don't pay attention to those downs as much because, oh, well, we've seen Josh Allen make an AFC title game and we've seen it. How do you think he gets there? So, like, to me, the ups and downs, the expectation is that it's going up, 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 up. And Ben Johnson said during training camp, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. And I don't think that's a conversation of anything you do that is successful. I think this is the one that probably hits the most. Insco Osorio 315. He said one word: history. And I think that's kind of the biggest one. We've all been jaded. We bought in and had our hearts ripped out, right? We all been there. We bought in and gone, oh my God, like, I can't believe I believed in this again. I think we're a little bit trepidatious on walking in and going, hey, I believe that this Bears team is going to be the one that doesn't break my heart. And you get your heart broken again. We've been there. But some heartbreaks are different than others, right? If your heartbreak this season is that you're competing for a playoff spot and you have a real opportunity to make it, and that in the hunt graphic is actually you in the hunt, then maybe you miss a little short. It's tough. It sucks. But think about where you're coming from. 4 wins or 5 wins, 10-game losing streak. Hopefully, you find a way to get some wins in the division here, and you're able to climb the standings a little bit. And you keep it competitive. But that's a different heartbreak than a 5-win season. right? As you head into the next season, right? The goal is playoffs. The Bears had a season where when J-Mac was on the team, right? In 05 or 04, 05, well, we were cooking and we got our butts kicked in the playoffs in the first round versus the Carolina Panthers. That's heartbreak. But that ain't 5-win heartbreak. That ain't every day of my life sucked heartbreak. And so to me, I understand the history of this. But this feels like history trending in the right direction. Dare I say, this feels like a 2018 history, but with somebody competent enough that we've seen be competent enough, that we've seen in real time be able to go in there and adjust his game plan, something that 2018 Matt Nagy couldn't do, to what defenses are doing and say, I'm going to call plays this way this game. I'm going to call plays this way this game. That's sustainable. And so for me, when I hear the confusion or the concern and stuff like that, I'm just like, I get where you're coming from with the history of this, but we haven't seen a head coach here in history like this probably since Lovie Smith, maybe even Mike Ditka was in the building. I mean, like, because Lovie had offensive coordinators that had, one-track minds. Run the football, get the football in. And you also had the talent that could only do that. So, like, I just think it's a different kind of history than we dealt with. Oh, on top of that, unlike 2018, right? Dennis Allen ain't going nowhere. He's probably hoping to be a Spags at this point, right? He's probably hoping to be a Vic Fangio at this point. On top of that, right? Like you've got a bunch of assistant coaches who have clearly made an impact on this team that probably are still going to be assistant coaches here next year. That consistency. And if you're winning, coaches have more likely, very similar to what Ben Johnson did, are more likely to go, I know that job is there and maybe I will take that job one day, but I want to win here. So for me, the question marks on where this team is at, and the question marks on the buy-in, and I get it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say that you have to be fully bought in. I'm not saying it's Super Bowl or bust. But can we live in a world where you're sitting 9-8, 10-7 and feel very, very good about what you've seen this season? I think that's a world that we can live in. And for me, with the development of Caleb Williams, it's not about, game by game. It's about season over season. And right now, is Caleb Williams playing better this season than he was playing last season? 110%. The hope is that continues to develop. By the end of this season, we see a quarterback that looks very different in January than we saw how he looked in November. So we'll see how this all plays out, man. I'm very excited. I appreciate you guys for leaving those comments, man. There were a ton of comments on that video of you guys expressing that. I'm going to start doing some of those and adding these into later videos throughout the day, but I appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. As always, man, it's your boy, Pat, the designer, back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. Be tapped in with us on the Morning Breeze tomorrow. Peace.